Friend who was assaulted by my dad died. I'm 28, sad I can't go to her funeral. We were friends since elementary school. Our first day of second grade. We bonded instantly because we had the same Pokemon backpack. Classmates used to tease us and call us BF/GF, but she was always like the sister I never had. She was my best friend and I really thought she was always gonna be in my life. But then we got older and it happened. My sick piece of shit dad got locked up and she was dealing with so much she didn't want to see me anymore. Couldn't imagine the pain she went through and it made me sick to think it was someone so close to me who did this to her. Her family and everyone else hated us after that because of what he did. We ended up having to move my senior year of HS because it got pretty bad and people weren't leaving our family alone. I never got to tell her I was sorry for what he did and for not knowing he hurt her. I spent years after that wondering if she hated me, if she got help to deal with the trauma and was having a better life now after everything. A couple years ago I found her Facebook and was tempted to message her, but I knew she probably didn't want to hear from me. Nobody should have to have any reminders in their life of what happened to them and I knew that's what I would be to her. Couldn't help it though, I kept tabs on her every now and then. Just wanted to make sure she was able to move on and was living a happy life. That she at least was able to find her own way to keep living because she deserved it. And seems like she did. Got married and graduated. But I learned last week she passed away and I'm crushed. I ended up leaving work early because I just wasn't feeling good. We haven't been in each other's lives in almost 11 years but I still feel that loss and it hurts so bad. I guess just knowing that I'll never get to see her again or have that chance to apologize. My heart feels too heavy. What hurts is that I know I won't be welcome at the funeral. I mean her family shouldn't have to deal with old wounds while they're trying to grieve, so I get it. But still, it hurts. I'm so sorry to hear. You definitely should donate to charity to honor her memory. Maybe you could bring flowers and Pokemon cards to her grave. Say the things you wish you could tell her at her grave or write a letter and leave it at her tombstone. If her grave is in another city/country, you'll have to wait before you can do that. In the meantime, look for grief counseling, groups or one-on-one, over Zoom and a therapist to help you cope with trauma. Wish you, your mother and her loved ones the best. You were a victim of what he did too. None of it was your fault. I'm sure she realized that. You also put her feelings ahead of your own by giving her the space she obviously needed, and I know she appreciated that. I had something similar happen and dealt with it by moving away from everything and everyone I knew at the time, just to start fresh. Moving forward in a new direction made it easier to stop thinking about it. For me it was a coping mechanism to flip off that switch in my brain. Sounds like she did something similar. But I never blamed anyone who didn't directly cause harm. I'm sure she didn't blame you for what your father did, and always remembered you for the thoughtful person you clearly are. Hugs. Fuck, I'm so sorry dude, that's really awful. Therapy is the only thing I can recommend. You weren't assaulted but you have still been hurt, traumatized and suffering from your father's crimes. That grief and pain is so much to handle for anyone, let alone for the age you were when it happened. I'm so sorry. Maybe a donation in her memory to a charity for victims of assault would be good for you to honor her memory. Way to feel connected and say goodbye without being at her funeral. Write down what you'd like to say to her if could speak to her now, and also another letter for your father with what you'd say to the man who damaged so many lives. In my country it's customary to send a mass card/sympathies card to the family of someone who had died. You may not feel comfortable or like it's appropriate, but maybe in a few weeks you could have it and flowers delivered to her grave. You're not your father and it's terrible that your friendship, home life and your friend's childhood was destroyed by his crime. I'm sorry. I hope you can find peace and the support you need. Remember too that saying goodbye to someone doesn't need to mean funeral attendance. It can be a private moment where you honor a person's life and the loss. I hope she did get the help she needed after that, but I hope you do now too. I'm sorry for your loss. If you cannot go to the funeral, you can do your own private ceremony. Your pain and sadness are totally valid. Your compassion for her family's feelings is immense and wonderful. I am sorry for you, and her family, and everyone else your father's actions hurt. Please consider speaking about your feeling on this topic to a therapist, as you deserve to move on and find peace as well. Much love. Stay strong. What should I do about the note I found in my son's room? So my son, 15, came to me, 44F, and his dad/my husband, 42M, about wanting to see a counselor back in October. We sat down and had a talk with him, explaining that if he ever needed to talk about something, we're here to listen and love him no matter what. We talked for a while and he told us that he didn't want to share with us the reason he wanted to go, which is completely understandable. I told him, and we both respect his privacy and have been taking him to sessions weekly since. When cleaning out his room yesterday, I found a note in the chest of drawers beside his bed, titled "How I See Myself." I usually wouldn't go looking through my children's things without reason, but generally his drawers are just filled with rubbish he's too lazy to put in the bin. And I understand that it wasn't my place to read it and I should have left it there and pretended I never saw it. But I read it, and it was genuinely heartbreaking to read, knowing that this is how he feels about himself. It was lines of different negative views he has about himself, particularly ones such as that he feels unlovable, worthless, and a pain to everyone around me. Make me question whether I've done enough as a mum to make him feel valued and loved as a person. I believe that note was meant for his counselor, as he had talked about before having to write stuff down for their sessions. I told my husband what I had found and he thinks that it's best we just pretend it was never there, as what goes on between him and his counselor is private and we shouldn't interfere unless asked. But I think it would be a good idea if we talked to him about it, and maybe us three could sit down and go through it, helping him see that everything he listed isn't true together. I understand why you would want to talk about it, but please, don't. If he wanted you to know, he would have told you, and clear issues would arise if he thought you were snooping in his stuff and read something so personal. This doesn't mean you can't be there for him. Talk to him in a way that makes it clear that he isn't worthless or unlovable. Not all at once, or that would be suspicious. Be subtle, but be there for him, and try to make him comfortable talking with you. If he feels comfortable, he will come to you. As a young person who wishes their parents had stepped in, I'd say this: you don't have to mention the note at all. Mentioning any specific behavior or action can be triggering or cause your child to feel guilt. I'd suggest that you simply reaffirm when dropping your child off at therapy, or at another situationally appropriate time, that you are proud of him for taking care of himself in this way, that by showing love to himself, he is showing the good person he is, and that you are so glad he is your child. Do not bring this up at any other time. He could be blindsided and feel self-conscious. Also, at an appropriate time, maybe you could talk about love languages. People feel cared for in different ways, and showing appreciation in the right way can totally turn someone's day around. Some like getting gifts, others like time together, others like words of affirmation, etc. Google has that for you. Showing love in the right way removes awkwardness and uncertainty. It makes it easier to say what you need to without pressure. It isn't your job to fix his issues, as hard as that is to accept. You just need to be a stable, loving presence, and that usually comes in very small actions. It sounds like your talk with him was supportive and loving, which is awesome. Good luck to you, and I hope your son feels better soon. 3. My parents did this to me. Found a note I wrote in a dark place and then saved, cause even though I naturally got over some of the things in it, saving it meant something to me. They ambushed me with it, removed my chance to come out to them, and made me feel incredibly violated. I can tell you really care. The things you're writing here mean you really picked up on why he's suffering. I echo another poster: step up the positive affirmations and make sure he feels connected with the therapist. If he does, follow their lead together and just make yourself available. He doesn't want to share those feelings with you guys. Plus you broke his trust by reading that shit. You telling him you read it and then expecting him to want to talk about it is ridiculous, and you should definitely leave it between your son and his counselor. Just be there for support if he asks for it. I'm glad you said it like that. The worst thing to do would be telling him you read it, or even hinting at knowing what he's going to counseling for. You broke his trust by reading that note. Do not make things worse by bringing it up to him. He has a counselor. He is working on himself. Your son will be okay. You need to support him when he needs it. Tell him you love him. Don't tell him you read it. Instead tell him how much you love him and positive affirmations every day. Depression kills. Creeped out by my 22M girlfriend. 22F. My girlfriend is way out of my league and I love her to pieces, so I'm going to start off by saying I'm not even thinking about breaking up with her. I just want to know what other people think about this, and what I can do to help her. The first quirk of hers I noticed was back when we were just flirting. She wears band-aids around all of her nails because she bites them, which isn't all that weird, but she'll bite into the pink part too until she has no nail. Once, I saw her studying and she got so frustrated she started hitting herself in the head. I ended up pulling her hands away from her, but she'd already managed to bruise herself. The thing that's really starting to make me concerned is that she never gets fully naked. She has a naked outfit which is basically a shirt and a pair of women's boxers, and she even wears it in the shower. She also needs me to be dressed, top and bottom, during intimate moments. This means we've never had actual biff sex, and our sex life basically consists of her performing sex acts on me while I do absolutely nothing to get her off. She says that she loves it that way, but I still feel a little guilty. I don't know if this is relevant, but she also has a weird interest in pegging me and having me dress up like a girl, which doesn't bother me, but it's a bit unconventional. Also, when I go out for the day and she's at home, she does literally nothing. She has a creative career that she basically works on 24/7 at home, but as soon as I leave, she says she doesn't have the energy for it. She's completely normal outside of this, bubbly, upbeat, extroverted, etc. But I'm just worried what it all means. I've asked her about some of the stuff, but she just sort of plays it off like it's no big deal. Is there anything I can do to help her? Does she even need help? She's an ever nude. Are they jean shorts? Sounds a bit like lasting effects of some sort of childhood trauma. But I've read the other comments and Asperger's and OCD also sounds highly plausible. I agree with everyone else that some sort of therapy is seriously needed. I was worried about childhood trauma when it comes to the nudity and our sex life. I will 100% support her if that's the case, and I wish she could open up to me about it. I just know it's such a sensitive subject that I don't want to push it. If it is or if it isn't, I think she should still try therapy, but I don't want to push her into a corner with it and drive her away. Sounds like it could be something like obsessive compulsive disorder. I had some of these behaviors when I was younger and had more severe OCD. I would never get naked in the shower. I would hit my head, because of obsessive intrusive thoughts were frustrating, not because of frustration with work. I didn't do nail biting, but the nail biting sounds like a lot of anxiety. This was me as a teen. I'm now in my 30s and fine thanks to CBT. Everything besides the pegging kink really clearly point to mental health issues, and she definitely needs help ASAP. She could possibly be hiding self-harm wounds and scars.